is a historic day, and not only because it is Father's Day and International Yoga Day and a solar eclipse, among other things. The historic part of connecting conversations is that for the first time we have a voice on the show that is not mine and Sujata's. And we are very glad to have with us Saral Somaya. She is an educator. Welcome to the show, Saral.
Thank you.
And Sujata and I have been introducing ourselves in every podcast. But one quick mention is I have an advertising background. I've been a writer for the last 25 years. Sujata is in the recruitment business for around 2 decades now, and she's also training to be a counselor. So today's agenda of getting this podcast together with a guest is the idea that all of us are the lucky parents of teenagers and an age above teenagers for in Saral's case. One of the bigger issues that we tend to face is the instilling of values. And when I was thinking about this topic today, I was reminded of a favorite quote of mine. The only two things that we can bequeath our children is roots and wings. So I was thinking, okay, how do we define roots? So since Saril is not only a parent and as a son who is older to both our kids, we would want to start with her being an educator. How do you look at this phenomena of roots? What would you want to say about that?
I'm obviously going to speak from my experience as a parent. I did not really think in terms of this quote, so to say, but I love it. It actually defines what parenting it is. It is, giving them a strong foundation, strong root system, and giving them the wings to fly. That is the responsibility of a parent, undoubtedly. So how I see it is, if I go back in time, I was very comfortable in who I was and who I am. And that has passed on to my son. We live in a country which is not my birth country, but I'm just as comfortable here as I was in my birth country. And that has passed on to my son as well. He identifies himself just as equally with both the cultures. He's not a misfit in any of those cultures. I think that's what grounding and rooting is all about. That you are comfortable in your skin, no matter where you are, no matter who you are. And that is a confidence that we need to help develop in our children. Giving them wings is, whether I was to continue living in India or now that I'm overseas, it's about risk taking. And you have to understand that there is no gain without a little bit of risk every now and then. And the unknown is the risk, but the unknown is where the growth is. So have that faith that, just because it is unknown, it's going to be bad or it's going to be wrong is not a good mindset to have. That's in my opinion. And because that was, the perspective of, life that we had in general, helped us take those little risks. And those were the wings we gave to my son. A little small example that I can give you here is, typically when your children are choosing subjects for, in high school, year 12, to go into university, they would choose very typical subjects, like high scoring subjects like chemistry and a high level of mathematics and physics and things like that. But we decided that we are not going to have any say in the subjects for my son to choose. It is out of his sheer interest, whatever he wants to do, whatever he wants to explore. Coming from the kind of background, we have been raised, it's not very common, because I see people, oh, no, you must take this, you must go to this university. We did not have anything like that. So we just gave him the freedom to take the risk and to make that choice. Sorry for taking so long to explain.
No, no, not at all. So you made actually quite a few points that make it worthy of the discussion. So Sujata, if we were to start with the first point she made, um, the sense of being at home in two different countries. Well, you could say the same thing. I think a lot of people who've lived in India and have moved abroad. For the record, a few of our listeners would not know Saral stays in Australia. So this is a truly international conversation we are having. And Sujata, of course, is in London. So getting to the main point, if a person belongs to two different countries and still manages to hold their own, uh, obviously it is not country led because the manifestations would be country led. One is in your case and Saral's case, some part of you would be Indian, your culture, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you eat, um, things like those. But some parts would be imbibed by the geographies that you guys have moved to. Some good, some bad. Obviously, we are not getting into the color of what those manifestations are. So, what is that point that makes you hold yourself beyond these borders, if I were to call it?
No, thanks for sharing what you did, Saril. That was something I can so kind of relate to. I mean, my daughter will be 13 in September. It's a classic age. And, I've been here for the better part of 14 years. One of the things that used to always, I would say, bother me, but would always be in my mind was how do I probably give the best of whatever the best is for me. And you had me at the point where you said we let our son choose the subjects that what he wanted to and what he was happy about, rather than looking at the usual physics, chemistry, maths, high scoring subjects. And that's exactly what we went with Ria as well. I mean, uh, in the UK, I'm not sure how the system works out where you stay, but out here, there is a lot of emphasis to get into grammar schools. Uh, Most Indian parents, if I may say that with due respect, the parameter of a child's intelligence is based on how many grammar schools he or she has managed to crack into. So that journey typically starts for a child maybe when he or she turns around the age of 9. You have weekend classes and things like that. You go through this entire rigmarole. You put your social life on hold. You as parents have no life. I guess somewhere at the back of the mind, there are very few parents that I have come across who even consider the child's ability and what the child really wants to do. I mean, needless to say, at some level, I think we ended up sticking out because um, we didn't really push Ria into any of those things. She just went with the flow. She's happy doing what she is. And I think somewhere for me, and I think both my husband, that kind of was very important that she pursues what she wants to and not what we feel, culturally or otherwise, that one needs to pursue in terms of excelling. I don't know if I'm making sense or I've answered your question, Bunty. Um,
Yeah, you do. I want to go in depth.
sure, of course.
If the See, partially, I think that is exactly what Saral said. Those are still, to me, a bit of the manifestation part of talk in terms of saying no to society and trying to be independent in your thought process. My question is more about where does the independence arise from? What sense of um, comfort with one's own being can bring that kind of independence? Uh,
I would probably say it is. I mean, just to borrow again from Saral, I think it would also be the fact that being comfortable in who you are and where you come from, and not really being defined by which school you go to and what lifestyle choices you make, etc. Just being absolutely comfortable, irrespective of which part of the world you are in. and that spirit to continue to maintain it as much as possible, and maintain it, I would say, effortlessly, because the more I feel sometimes if you try really hard at something, you'll probably lose it away. But the fact that you're trying to maintain something and it comes naturally, I think the flow becomes very effortless, whatever that is, which you want to instill in yourself or pass it on to your children. uh, yeah.
So, Carol, if I were to pick up this point and ask you, when she says naturally, well, it's a very deceptive word. There is nothing natural. We are either imbibing from others. We are social beings, uh, and we have our own basic inherent nature. Some of us might be very confident. Some of us might be mischievous. Some of us might be corrupt. Some of us might be introverted. Uh, so, if one were to go a bit into what is that natural part that one has, and if one has to maintain, so by maintaining it, I think she means sustain what is holding you. So that is the second part. What is being held is the question here. What is natural here? What makes since you put it on yourself rather than your son, that you were comfortable, so he inherited it from you. So the question comes back to you: what is it that made you sure that you would sustain yourself irrespective of the pressure of being in a new country?
There are a few different layers. It's not a straightforward answer.
Okay.
And these questions come my way quite often now, because people ask, oh, we ask from friends, right? How did you do this and how did you do that? Um, One thing, I can't say, oh, this is the first and foremost and whatever, but a few things that come to my mind is my husband and I share a very supportive relationship. And I think that's a very strong foundation that we've been able to give Utkarsh. Um, Also, I always look at my motherhood. Like, I strongly believe being a parent is a privilege. People take it for granted. They think just because as a species we can procreate, we can just go have kids and that's the end of the story. I don't see it like that. I think it's a huge privilege. It comes with certain rights, but with more responsibilities, and responsibilities not that worry me, but responsibilities which have made me a better person. I always say to Utkarsh that, Utkarsh, I was never a bad person, but I think I'm a better person after you came into my life. After I became a mother, I became a better person, because anything that I would say to him, I had to make sure, not make sure really, but I used to automatically reflect. Do I do this? For example, if I tell him, "Jhoot nahi bolna, don't lie," that applies to me, right? It applies to me too. And that's why today, when, as an educator, I'm talking to someone, I tell them, please, please don't ask your children to do something that you don't do. Yeah, they don't listen to what you say, they listen to what you do. So you don't even have to say anything, you just do it and they will follow you. And I think that's where, I did not make an effort to be comfortable. I was comfortable. I was happy with, I mean, we had a lot of teething troubles in this country. I mean, it's not that it was an easy ride, but I don't think we ever sit and dwell on those kind of challenges that come our way. We just, chalti ka naam gaadi. We keep going. So I think Utkarsh has also, I'm hoping, learned that, what, challenges are always going to be there. Life is not always going to take the turn that we hope or we wish or we plan for. Whatever comes, just make the most of it. So I think practicing what you preach, don't say things to your children if you are not going to do it yourself, is something that I really, really think good parenting is all about.
Yeah, I have a very, to play the devil's advocate here. Um, there are times when I've heard a lot of my friends talk about it. to some extent, it is also true that we have crossed a large part of our lives being what we are, and it may not be the ideal parenting model by itself, what we stand for. Say there are people uh, who smoke, who drink, who swear, who get angry, uh, who have anything at all which they would not want their kids to imbibe because they know the repercussions, but they are unable to do anything about it. So on paper, it's a very lovely thing to say that stand up for
I
what
don't agree.
you.
I
Ah,
don't
no, but
agree.
I'm not even coming to that. I'm saying, say, I have enough. We have enough examples in the world of people like those. So since we are digging a little deeper on what works for us who are trying to be this, it's not about agreement and disagreement about the point itself. It is, if it is working, what makes it work? If it doesn't work, what leads to its failure?